All right, what up, everybody? It's ForceofPhil back for another donation deck list. Today we have Havoc's Jeskai control list. So Havoc has sent me this Jeskai control list that's maxed out on Teferi Time Ravelers, playing a bunch of Flages, which we are going to support by doing something that I haven't done in a long time when it comes to control lists, which is play without Mystic Sanctuary. We're on 4 dress down instead of playing any type of Wrath effect, so we're going to be prepared pretty well against Urza Saga constructs. We have 3 Flusterstorms in the main. We are targeting something, and I think what we're targeting really is opposing stock-ups. We're targeting Dark Rituals. We are going to not be able to target much when it comes to Cephalid Breakfast, but it will be able to protect our removal spells against that sort of stuff. And I think that's going to be an interesting thing. We'll see if Flusterstorm main deck as a 3-of is powerful enough. We'll also be able to main deck go after a bunch of cantrips because they don't necessarily, if we're playing against other fair strategies that don't want to have the removal spells in hand, Flusterstorm fighting over Brainstorm in the early game in those matchups is also really potent in game 1s. Looking at the board here, we got the classic stuff. We are fighting over Reanimator with Surgicals and Contaminate Freeze, Force Negation to help fight against Reanimator and Ubisoft spells, and then things of the like that'll pair really well with Flusterstorms. We got Hydroblast, which is good against all the Temur Delver and Grixis Delver type shells, and Mono Red, of course. Pyroblast, opposing blue decks. There's a lot of those out there. Consign is going to help us against One Ring strategies, and perhaps against Thassa's Oracle as well. No Rod also nod to all of the One Ring strategies that are out there. But otherwise, we're going to lean in on being able to go to Teferi to hold down the board and then flage people down. We also have the strategy of end step, dress down, and then play Phage, and then as long as they don't remove the Phage, we get to untap and hit them that way. But as you can see, we are on a lot of heavy tap-out 3-drops. Luckily, two of our threats here do impact the board. Teferi can slow the board down. Teferi Phage can kill a thing, so they are 3-drops, but they are not 3-drops, all of which don't impact the board. If this were like 4 stock up and 4 Narset, then it'd be a struggle because if those get clipped, and then we don't have a way to help with fighting over what's going on board, then we would get clipped pretty hard. But this should help clean up between 4 Prismatic and 4 Source to Plowshares and Dress Downs. This should help make it so that Teferi Time Raveler can actually do his thing. Same thing with Phage before we get buried out of the game. I'm worried a bit about Daze in that we are only playing Island, Plains, and Mountain as our basics. Otherwise, we are pretty non-basic heavy between Thundering Falls, Meticulous Archive, and a Caracas, all of which I'm totally cool with because they do have they are value utility lands, but we are sort of disrespecting Daze, given that we're only playing 3 basics, and we do, and of those basics is an island, and we do want red, white for our Phage. So we'll see how it goes. I'm a little concerned about a Daze Wasteland Shell, but we do have 5 blasts to sort of help get our curve down a bit to help out with that. Dress downs are going to be soft in that matchup again, so it's clear that we're looking at the 8 white spells plus Phage as ways to help contend against the DRC decks of the world. But otherwise, this is Havoc's donation deck list. If anybody would like to also submit a deck list to be played on the channel, go to patreon.com/eternaldurdles, where we have opened up a tier 4 donation deck list. So thank you to Havoc for sending me this Jeskai list. We're going to play a little bit different from control of what I've played in a while. So this is exciting. I'm excited to try out this sort of like tight package of Teferi and Dress Down and see how it goes. And hopefully we just run into a bunch of Urza Saga decks that get destroyed by this stuff. So let's get into it. 3-for-1 Trading is buying all Magic the Gathering singles and entire collections, big and small.
They're one of the top trading card game traders, buying way over 1 million Magic cards a year, and they are more than happy to make an offer on your cards.
In addition to sending in your cards, you'll also have a chance to sell and trade with them at MagicCon Las Vegas, taking place from June 20th to 22nd.
You can support the channel by using the link 341.gg/sell-ed.
Huge thanks to 3-for-1 Trading for supporting the Legacy community. Now back to the show. All right, I'm on a 3 with this sweet ancestral phase-changing avatar. It's our first opponent. We lost the die roll, so we're going to have to play a little bit more defensive going in, but we got to mulligan this no-lander. It's a wee bit better. I think there's an argument for either sending back the Thundering Falls, or we could send back one of the Prismatic Endings. Now, if Prismatic Ending is good in the matchup, we are going to want both Prismatic Endings. But I think it's reasonable, without any cantrips, that we want to keep our mana, assuming that we also are going to potentially have to play through Wasteland, that using this Thundering Falls as effectively our cantrip for the turn. I think that's the most reasonable. I think like the upside of Dress Down in the matchups where it's good is going to be great. In the matchups where we want Prismatic Ending, we do want the second one, but we are loaded on stuff to be able to find more copies. So I think that like just throwing back a second one here is reasonable. I think Teferi with Dress Down as a way to start going up cards after the fact is also where the deck is built, because this is a 4 of and this is a 4 of. So this is the engine that we're building around. This is what Havoc is looking to do. So we're gonna trust the build. We're gonna trust the build and start and see what we like. We do have to be conscious, and this was something that Havoc did mention to me before when submitting the deck list, that something to keep in mind is when fetching to be conscious of red, white for Flage. So the basic island is a bit risky. So my guess here is that they're going to take Dress Down because this is going to be the thing that would otherwise stop Entomb Reanimate. Nope, they take Teferi. Okay. Teferi is the most powerful card in the hand, so it makes sense that they would go after it. But it also implies that that they expect that the game is going to go long enough that Teferi would be relevant. Let's lead on to Thundering Falls. Swords to Plowshares is fine, but I don't know if we want another Swords to Plowshares. It's possible that if they take the Teferi, then Swords to Plowshares is good, and this Prismatic Ending is blank. And if we flip over swords, would it presume that they think that we just drew a swords? Would we want the second swords? Is that something that we would care about? Don't think it is. I think like looking for, now that we have a swords, I think looking for a stock up or another Teferi is going to be more impactful. I think we'll put that in the yard. That might come back to bite, but I think we want to. I don't think we want to lean on having so much answers. I think since they took a Teferi, and that presumes that Teferi is going to be relevant, that I think drawing towards cantrips, more Teferis, maybe perhaps some counter magic. Like if they're on Entomb Reanimate, it's possible that a Flusterstorm, which we have 3 of main deck, is also an interesting slot, or a Flusterstorm to fight over and protect our Swords to Plowshares on their threat after they reanimate it. This is also presuming that they're on Reanimator. They may not be. They're playing basic island, so it's possible that they're not on Reanimator. I've seen some lists that play the island, some lists that don't. So that Ponder they kept. So stock up is great. I think we're going to play this other Flooded Strand and use it. We'll hold up Dress Down if we need to, but otherwise this will help. This will get us a Meticulous Archive. We'll use that as another sculpt. Nethergoyf. Okay, that's great. We're happy to see a Nethergoyf and not an Entomb. Murktide Region. All right. So Murktide Region's fine. I think now this is a world where we can spend our mana. It's also possible that like this Swords to Plowshares would just get clipped by a potential force that they're holding in hand. But if that's the case, then we're still going to need to stymie this a bit. They just clear their own graveyard and they have 3 cards. We want to untap and stock up, and if they force this swords, then we get to stock up. I'm into that. I am going to get the Plane since we don't have a basic, and that still leans into Flage. I think it's reasonable to get the Planes here. Not that way we don't get cut off. Now there's argument of like, okay, do we walk into this daze? Do we play around it? I think if we don't want to play around daze, we can hold up Dress Down. There's nothing really in this deck that matters about dressing down. Then we would spend this Prismatic Ending on this Nethergoyf. This is like the target that it's going to go after, and I think keeping our life total high is also relatively fine. Of course, we can ponder before we do that to figure out if that's actually what we want to do. They let that go, and I think it's reasonable to use this ponder to find a 4th land drop, and then stock up from there, but use our mana and Prismatic Ending here, and then hold up Dress Down. Could hold up Dress Down, or we could ponder, find our 4th land drop. Could also just cycle this at an opportunity when it matters. This can also blank a combat later on. I don't know if I want to run this stock up into a daze, if we can just cantrip around it. And we can also cantrip around a Bowmaster, which I think is relatively valuable, so I'm going to do that. Swords to Plowshares is an excellent find. So let's put Swords Brainstorm, because they can Thoughtseize us, and that's just not going to be what it's about. So let's go Swords Brainstorm, Scalding Tarn. We are not going to use Ponder's ability. We'll play this Volk, and let's cash in this Prismatic Ending and simplify this game. We'll play around days as long as we can to obsolete that card. This stock up will then run away with it. They play no threats. That's amazing. So this is in a position where the second Swords to Plowshares would be great, but if they have double days, then I'm not going to let them double days with this, like, hit a days in response to Scalding Tarn. Obviously not playing around opposition agent. Let's get a Tundra, so we have 2 white sources. We'll cash the stock up. Now they can't, if they want to double days, they can't double days with the thing on the stack. I mean, they obviously could still double days us, but all right, so I think just going stock up and Flage is also the way to go here. And just lean in hard. I think you could argue getting a Force Will and just stop whatever their follow-up play is, but there isn't really anything that we would care about that they could cast, being Dimir Tempo, that like this Flage can't take down. I mean, maybe a Murktide Regent, but like I think we can outrace that thing. And they have no graveyard right now, so it's not really irrelevant. Let's just go for the Jugular. If they spin a Bowmaster here, I don't know if we need to use the Brainstorm. We have a dress down so that way we can get around it. Literally, they know that that wasteland would actually be very good, but they don't know that we're on Flage, but they could cut us from escaping Flage. I mean, they would have 2 turn cycles to do it, but all right, a Thoughtseize. Do we care about that? Yes. Well, they're going to walk into a Bowmaster. I'm not going to let them walk into a Bowmaster. If they want to take the stock up, they can do that. Flage is going to bury them, and that's it. Yep. So against Dimir, we don't really need to board much. We were sort of already set up against Dimir in ways that are pretty good, pretty powerful. I think that the dress down's just clocking their time walks against Baragorfs and Nethergorfs, and that it'll make them O1s. So in that regard, it just scores us a combat step. See an argument for bringing in the Red Blast just to make sure that our removal spells actually do check their stuff. I could see taking out the Force of Wills for Pyroblast, that way our removal actually lines up, since that's the point. And there isn't really anything that we're going to care about that they're going to bring in. Like we do have to care about Kaito. So like Pyroblast are coming in. I would think that the thing that to board out would be the Force of Wills. Force of Wills are not necessarily pairing with anything that we need. I think the other argument is you could just take out the dress downs and keep the forces if you cared about like being able to fight over, say, Bowmaster. Ultimately, that's probably better than dress down, since dress down doesn't actually have meaningful text, but there is also the notion of like dress down with a Kaito means that you can sword to plowshares the Kaito, so that's also kind of appealing. We're on the draw, so that's why I'm like, you know, maybe not getting rid of our 1 mana interaction is more interesting. All right, this hand is great. We have mana and we have removal spells for early game interaction. We have Brainstorm to clean up. If they Thoughtseize and take the Brainstorm, then they have to work through double removal spell. We're not going to miss any of our land drops. Our game plan is like, since we're playing a 4th Aerolingus deck and there isn't an engine or a contraption that we're trying to build, our goal really is, as this type of control deck, which is to simplify the game with 1-for-1 exchanges and then go up with stock up into Teferi to go up on those cards, and then just progress the game until a top deck 4th Aerolingus is the way to go. 4th Aerolingus is a bit early for us, so we don't need that. Just so everybody knows, the Underground Sea is just so Prismatic Ending can get up to 4, which is going to be potentially relevant against a Kaito or Karn or something, or One Ring, something of that nature. I'm going to lead. I actually am thinking I'm going to lead on the Underground Sea if they want to spend their Wasteland doing it, but I want to be able to hold up Brainstorm. In this position, there's nothing that they're going to cast on turn 2 that Pyroblast is going to want to catch. They could play, if they wanted to play, say, a Tamiyo plus Brainstorm on turn 2, so they're just brainstorming now. But if they wanted to do something like that, the Pyroblast could clean it up after the fact. There's also like the notion that when you're playing against the Tamiyo as a control shell, you sort of just let them spend their time, as long as you're able to, you know, progress your game plan as well with something like stock ups or Teferis, that them spending turns casting or cracking clues is favorable for you. Because all of your stuff, all of your white cards just have so much text against a bunch of the stuff that they're doing. And so you wait until they flip the Tamiyo, that way you can catch it with the Prismatic Ending. So like, even though they just spent a Brainstorm, it's like, okay, well, we're not going to Prismatic Ending this thing. We're going to let this live for a second, and we're just going to develop our own stuff. And then in response to, if they wanted to go Brainstorm at the end of their turn or something like that, then we would fight over it. But for right now, we have no need to progress this position beyond. We can just let them, you know, not get blown out by the fact that this is going to convert. And if they flip the Tamiyo, that's great, because then our Prismatic Endings can't get blanked by a Brainstorm. And if they want to spend turns like cracking the clues and then letting us develop, we're happy to do that, because we have this 4th Aerolingus. And the second that they do anything that would let this 4th Aerolingus get through, we'll take it. Tamiyo does not deal combat damage, so it can't become the Monarch. So casting a Ponder here instead of cracking a clue is representative that like they're going to try and flip this Tamiyo now. They're not. They're just going to let it sit. So now this is a spot where it is somewhat interesting, because we can go Prismatic Ending plus Pyroblast up here, which I think is reasonable, given that like they could, if they get to 3 mana, they can Kaito. I'm cool to spend that. One could argue that you want to play the Flutterstorm in there in case that they don't fight over it, but I also think that there's rationale to that not being the thing. Now, here's what we're going to do. Like, I'm going to, same thing, I'm going to run this back. I'm going to Prismatic Ending, because this Prismatic Ending, we want it to line up. This Pyroblast, if it lines up with the counter magic, if they let the first one go because they had the second one, and then they're going to be willing to fight over the second one. But if they also throw a Brainstorm into trying to flip this Tamiyo, we can Pyroblast it, and we can actually spend all of our resources and try and get them to spend their mana. That way we can 4th Aerolingus on the follow-up. They showed no interest in fighting over that whatsoever. And so therefore, I don't think we need to move. We are making another land drop, so there's no need to get in. I'm not going to walk this 4th Aerolingus into a Daze. And if we played around Daze and they have a removal spell, It's very likely that they boarded out the removal spell, but in the event that they didn't, they could have Hydroblast that could blow up this thing. They're just mono Tamios here. So this is a spot where I will fight with a Pyroblast since we've used our two things. If they fight over this here, then we get to fourth Aerolingus and get in there. That's a great exchange for us. I could see a world where we try and brainstorm into a Fluster. We are playing 3 Flusters, and if we can win this war, that'd be pretty hot. We'll put back. We want double red because we eventually want the thing, and we also want. We'll fetch. So this is going to get in. Tamio's in. Let's get ourselves our second red source. Yeah, let's get a second red source. We'll get the Thundering Falls. Prismatic Ending we'll leave on top, and then we can totally undo this board by going land, playing around days. We'll Prismatic Ending the Tamio. We'll bounce the Clue. We'll have a Teferi on the table. And then we'll be able to fourth Aerolingus in a follow-up turn where they won't be able to fight over it. I'm leading on Prismatic Ending. They haven't shown that they want to fight over it, but if they do want to fight over it, I want them to fight over that and not the Teferi, so I'm leading with the Prismatic Ending. I'm going to represent another Pyroblast here. Holding up the red-blue 4. This is holding up for both Fluster, but it's representing Pyroblast. And when we bounce this Clue, we could end up drawing either one. Now, there's argument for not ticking down the Teferi so that they can't Bowmaster it down. And that's a reasonable take. And then they will feel compelled to spend their turn getting a Clue. This is what we were thinking about. They were patient with this Force of Will. What did they pitch? They pitched a Harbinger of the Seas. That's wild. That would have bodied us. Wow. Oh, hopefully they're not sitting on another one of those. And then I didn't prioritize getting basics this game. Maybe I should have. I mean, we can still operate on blue. This would turn it off, so that way we could fourth Aerolingus. I guess it's not the end of the world. Justin does help us out with that. All right, big Worktide region. I'm going to meticulous archive to see if we can find anything with this dress down. If there's any action that we want to draw, there isn't. So now, I probably want to hold up the same mana because if we draw Swords to Plowshares or Pyroblast, we can get rid of this Murktide region. So white, red. This will both play around days and leave open the mana for all of the things that we would want. They will get the block, but we will get the Monarchy. Force of Will is good in that it'll stop any follow-up. So they'll attack, they'll take the Monarchy, they'll draw a card, but we'll be able to stop any threat that they come in, and then we'll be able to steal it right back. I'm okay playing this high resource game, going back and forth, because they're on 2 mana without enough stuff to deploy, and we have all this mana, and I'd like to convert it. Stock up is pretty powerful. I think it's also reasonable to lean into it before going to combat. Make them act. So we want swords. And I think we just take the additional stock up. Let's go to combat, make them work. Bowmaster is going to get forced. Actually, let's fight over this. Swords this. Take the Monarchy back. Now they don't have a means to get it back, so this is worth at least 2 cards. Second stock up. Argument there that, like, pitching the other stock up, that way we hold open 2 mana for the dress down, and then we can cantrip, and then we actually can cast some spells, is more worth it. But I think that the without knowing that we were going to draw the second stock up, being able to rebuild after the stock up is just much more interesting. Or more powerful, rather. The Flage Titan of Fire's Fury. That was a great draw. And I think I'm okay leaning on that draw because I don't want to lose to a Daze. Or I don't want the Flage to get tacked by a Daze because we can't block this guy. And that'll do it.
Think your Legacy or Pre-Modern deck is the truth?
Or total garbage? We'll play it either way.
Join our donation deck Patreon tier.
Choose ForceofPhil to run your deck through a league and maybe, probably, definitely, most maybe even win every single game.
Go to patreon.com/EternalDurtles.
2-0. On to the next. Well done. So that one is like that matchup, the Dimir tempo matchup. You can see how like the difference between that and Reanimator and why I think it's reasonable that Havoc has 3 Flusters in the main board is because if we are presuming that we need to line up our spells properly against the matchups that we expect to face, the Dimir tempo matchup, making it so that our prismatic endings all and other white cards all have text, is really, really potent. And you can see the argument for dress downs as opposed to any other type of Wrath of God effect because it's good against Urza Saga, which is typically what you would need if the game was going wide anyway. But then also dress down has some amount of game against Atraxa. And so there's the rationale there that like if you can catch the Atraxa so it doesn't go up cards, then you can spend a Swords to Plowshares removing the Atraxa, and then you're not down the card because the dress down replaced itself. And so really you're just exchanging the Swords to Plowshares for the Atraxa. Now those are positions that assume that you have hit your mana and are able to win those wars to get into those positions. But I can see the rationale for it over, something like I was doing, which has been playing Terminus, or any other type of Wrath effect. The other side of it is because when you're playing against Dimir Tempo and all the white cards have text, you can presume that your matchup against that deck, where you're just actually spending your mana and then playing Teferis and stock ups to go up a bunch of cards, that the game can just be simplified like that was. That was sort of an ABC style, like just very 101 classic, how those matchups should line up. Now, the stuff that you fear are things like Kaito, because those are engines that are really difficult to deal with. But 3 Power Blast on the board is also pretty relevant against that. Dress Down also makes it so that your Source of Plowshares can get rid of a Kaito, so that's also a nod towards Dress Down as like the wrath of choice. So if more people are going to be on Urza Saga because of the buff that Urza Saga just got from the new Blood Moon ruling for sagas, then Dress Down becomes more appealing in that world where the amount of play that Urza Saga sees is artificially inflated. And then also against the stuff that you would otherwise have problems with, like Kaito, it's also relevant because then you turn on your white cards to be good against something that otherwise would have no text. And Flusters then can be used towards the matchups that you would struggle with, and being able to go Fluster to fight over, let's say you're on the draw against Entomb Reanimate, and they go Entomb, you can either Fluster through a Daze on the Entomb, or you can fight over the Reanimate on the follow-up, and that also wins through a Daze. So the rationale, if you're looking to target where the top of the metagame is, you can see the rationale for these choices. All right, so this hand seems totally reasonable. We have double stock up. We're hitting all of our land drops. We have our first removal spell. We have a Brainstorm to clean it up if we need anything. Not knowing what we're doing in the dark, like the only thing that this loses to is if we really needed to Force Will immediately, because we are on the draw. So like we are going to be at the mercy of a glass cannon. But otherwise, I think we have everything that we need to do. Death from Above has lost connection to the game, so we're going to wait for them to come back in. But I think this is sort of like a nice hand of how you'd want to line it up. Like we have Meticulous Archive and the Thundering Falls in the deck, so we can use these as additional cantrips. We can also, if we need to, play around Wasteland as fetch land. So it's all in all a well-rounded hand with a removal spell, a Brainstorm to help clean it up if we need to, and then arguably the most powerful card in our deck, which is Stock. Turn 1 Ponder off an Underground Sea, so we can assume that we are, again, against, at least 80% the same shell, whether that's Dimir Tempo or Reanimator in the blind. I think I'm okay, since we don't necessarily know. I'm happy to use this as a fetch to not get hit by a Wasteland, or we can use it as an archive. I don't necessarily know what we need this Ponder for. It's arguable that we should be searching for a Fluster, but as long as we're representing something, they might not lean into whatever it is that they're doing. Until we have an idea of what exactly we're going to need to line our stuff up against. We do have a Swords to Plowshares if they try and do something tricky with some big monster, but until then, I think it's okay that we don't necessarily move. I don't know if I would presume that they're on a Stifle build. I always just have like this knack that like the worst thing that could happen is we get stifled. I'm going to use this here. We'll get a Meticulous Archive. My instinct is we don't need Brainstorm because we're sort of loaded and our mana is going to be used. And we have a Brainstorm already. Otherwise, the rest of our cards are good. But also, sometimes it's tough to get rid of one of your best cards, or we'll get rid of it. We do need to fuel Flage at some point. Fluster is very good. I think, again, not knowing quite yet what we need, I'm okay maximizing this Fluster, being able to go fetch Brainstorm and then potentially Fluster something, so that way I can get through 2 mana if they spend something on 1 mana. Again, it's, on double Ponder, we still don't necessarily know what we're up against. I'm okay not moving if they're cool not moving. Teferi is interesting. I am going to Ponder here. I would like to hit a land drop. This is all nice. So I want to keep hitting my land drop, so we're going to go put stock up down, draw the Volk, and then I'm still going to hold this up. They did miss a land drop, which means that this Fluster is going to get more maximized. If they want to play a Bowmaster here, then we will get to Swords to Plowshares plus Fluster to protect the swords. Looks like they kept on top. Again, this is all like, we can't quite tell what this is just yet. Okay, so they kept the land on top, Lotus Petal. Okay, so their Storm. So okay, this is going to lend itself well into a Flusterstorm being able to fight over whatever it is that they try to do. Teferi is not. Oh, they're on that like 3-color Doomsday type stuff. Okay, so if this is going to resolve, we know what's on top of our library and we don't need any of it. So we'll get ourselves Tundra here. I'll Brainstorm in response. We're looking to find a Force Will that we can protect with his Flusterstorm. This is great. We'll put the swords underneath and the Crocus underneath that. No, we'll put if somehow they have Force, Fluster, Force it again, they go empty. Bounce, draw a card, we can untap Prismatic Ending. guess it's also reasonable that Teferi is just not what we care about this in matchup. I think stock-ups are just stronger. So we can see, like, certainly they're not thinking about Flusterstorm in the main, and a lot of times they would think that that's not good enough. Days picking this up is not going to be good enough. We're not going to fight over that. Oh, they're hitting the ForceofPhil. Yeah, okay. So they have the double up. We have the Prismatic Ending to follow up against their Teferi, but I think it also might be the way that we play through this is stock up first, looking for a dress down, and then we could Prismatic Ending plus dress down. So we know that they just spent a daze. We could play around a second daze. They forgot to plus, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We could play around a second daze on this stock up, which might be better, but we know that the Source to Plowshares is on top of the deck. They pitched the second Teferi. Yeah, I don't think I want to draw that Source to Plowshares or even look at it, so we're going to dump it and not play around a second daze. Okay, so we can take this Prismatic Ending up against this Teferi, can turn on this ForceofPhil, but otherwise I think we're still interested in just going, we'll take 4 stock up and just keep rebuilding, assuming that they don't kill us this turn. This force is blank until we remove this Teferi, but next turn we'll be able to play land, get rid of this Teferi, and then, unless they're going for the kill right now, they might have just had Force Daze, Teferi, plus mana, plus kill, depending on what their last card in hand is. Playing out the LED is suggestive of that. All right, so if they had double counter backup plus a Teferi to get through everything, we can go back and play it back. Maybe there's a world where, like, the cantrip sequencing that I did, maybe I misevaluated on figuring out what the deck initially was on Ponder. You know, maybe it's reasonable to think that they're not on Reanimator or on Dimir Tempo with no plays on the first 2 turns. They're a City of Solituding, so there's nothing that we can do here. It's also possible that, like, I was just too conservative on those initial cantrips, and I needed to bleed a little bit faster. But either way, that was a nice little roll up that they had with no way for us to really interact with it. It seems like, but I'm sure there was something that I could have done. Okay, so consign, force negation, getting all these sources. You know, they might have the pivot plan. You know, there might be a deck with a pivot plan, but I think if that's the case, then we just lean on Flage and Prismatic Endings. But the swords, I think, are just going to be way too soft in the matchup. I think Caracas is going to be soft in the matchup. Bringing force and consigns. You can see argument for Pyroblasts, so we can fight over the Teferis and opposing counter magic. I think our Teferis are probably going to be too slow. They're not stopping anything meaningful. No Rod only stops the fast draws that they have. I could see Surgical is coming in just to fight over if we win the first war. We have 15, 19, 23. We're fine on blue count. I don't like Surgical in this matchup, only because you have to win the first war, and you don't want to see it until that war is won. So maybe we keep in some number of these. I don't know, Havoc, what would you do here? Get in the comments and let me know how you board for Doomsday. There's the stuff that's obvious to me. But then there's the stuff that's not. Do you leave in a couple swords to presume that they're going to be on Barragoyf or Bowmaster post board, and that we're going to need to fight over that? I mean, Flage sort of covers ground against Bowmaster. Stockup's also playing around it. Dress Down's playing around it. So maybe we play Teferi. Then when they go for it, they can't counter stuff. We just keep them as a couple rather than go for the Surgicals. I'm always reticent to put in cards that only care about, that are only good after you've, like, done the thing that you need to do to not die. All right, we'll leverage our Surveil lands to start getting this Flage as quickly as possible. Certainly there's going to be a Thoughtseize or something along the way that's going to pick these apart. This Brainstorm is going to help get this Underground Sea out of our hand. I think what there is argument for, if we wanted to do a fast Flage, is we could fetch, trigger on the stack with a Surveil land, put the Flage on top, surveil it to the yard. It's not the craziest thing in the world. Can we beat a Carpet of Flowers? We do have, I think I'm going to let this go because we do have Prismatic Endings still left in the deck. I don't want to fetch right now and give them more mana than we need to. And I do want to fetch the Meticulous Archive. So put this Flage into the yard. I'm going to hold up Force Negation plus Force of Will. And then save this Brainstorm, I think. I think that's a little bit better. We could bounce the Carpet. I could also Brainstorm looking for a Prismatic Ending. It's probably the best case scenario. This runs into a Daze, which we wouldn't want to fight over. And I think that's probably the highest leverage point that we're going to get. And then we want to be able to Flage next turn, in which case our mana is already going to be bottlenecked. So we put back these two. Okay, so we only have double force up, but we could Brainstorm into 2 more blue cards potentially. if we get into that position. They're going to be boat-loaded on mana here, but it doesn't look like they're going to do anything with it. All right, then. I'm going to lean on Teferi to start. I don't want to walk this Flage into a daze. They've had no reason to do anything else. So their hand is obviously reactive. This, oh wow, I'm surprised by that. Well, now they can't Bowmaster against us. I'll bounce this carpet. I am going to fight over this carpet now on the way down. Question is Brainstorm or Dress Down. I don't think it matters because we're never going to let them resolve the thing anyway, so let's get rid of the Dress Down. Mana might not have been their bottleneck, but their color might have been their bottleneck. I didn't want this giving them triple black. They were missing a black mana source. Also, if they're playing any sort of the old tech that I remember this sort of build used to do, which is like One Rings, I don't want them to be able to like have infinite mana to bump into that, put them on the clock. So we haven't gotten fortunate this game. They had the Carpet of Flowers and then nothing really to sink into it. They didn't fight over this Teferi at all. Granted, like we did play around days, so they might be glutted on that. They might be glutted on Doomsdays with not enough mana or not enough rationale to go for it because they didn't have anything to pair with it. There's a bunch of different variables that it might be. I didn't fight over this Carpet of Flowers because that's not it anymore. We're on double force they can't fight over. And Flage with a clock. So their own Teferi. I do care about that. Teferi sucks. Teferi is a horrible, horrible card to exist. You have a Brainstorm. You have a Dark Ritual. Doomsday is not going to resolve. So they're on a one-turn clock. This stock up can be cast at instant speed, so we'll figure out what we need when we need it, depending on what they try and do, and that'll do it. We needed a lot that game. We needed everything and more. Based on what we saw, though, I think it is correct. So, I mean, Prismatic Ending, of course, because we need to deal with the fairies, but now that we also know that it's on Carpet of Flowers, is a valuable thing to keep that in for. Certainly need the Power Blast for their opposing Teferis and then their Cannon Magic. But I think everything else, there's nothing else really that I'd be looking for. I mean, you could argue the Surgical Extractions to fight over, to fight and win counter wars potentially. If there's an early force in the yard, you let something resolve, then Surgical the Force, and then try and strip them that way. But I think that's a little bit too anemic. I think we just run back what we just did. Prismatic Endings is like having enough targets to clear the Teferi. Now we know that the Teferi needs to come off the board pretty quickly. I could see a world where we bring in the Surgicals instead of something with a fourth Aerolingus, like you just saw. The fourth in the opening hand is bad, and the games are very rarely going to come down to a fourth Aerolingus draw. We will keep this one, and I think we just put back the Plateau. Because we want to have a high enough density of blue cards. We do not want any of these cards. Force was a great draw. We have to hope that they don't go for it because they certainly will be able to win through a single force if they didn't do anything and just have it rolled up. But assuming that they don't, we then get to hold up Force plus Power Blast on the following turn. Tamiyo's fine. Them flipping a Tamiyo is also fine. It's great. If we find a Prismatic Ending, which is what I would like to convert with that against the Tamiyo, that's great. They might now try and play a Protect the Queen strategy, in which case all the more reasonable for us to have both Power Blast and Prismatic Ending in the deck and fight over that war. Much happier to fight that war than I am to fight the Doomsday War, because we just have more cards that have text. So while they're tapped out, I don't know if they would be playing anything that would lend itself to such things, but I'm willing to play around a daze here to get things started. Fight here, they force, we force back. I'll pitch the Dress Down. We get to win that war. I'll spend this Ponder. Prismatic Ending, Flusterstorm, ForceofPhil, we do enjoy. I'm going to put the Fluster... I'm going to draw the Force, and I think put the Fluster underneath. So we have Fluster Prismatic Ending coming, which means that I'm going to end up having to pitch this stock up if we come down to this war because I need to cantrip through all that. Carpet of Flowers might be the target, but we have the Prismatic Ending on the follow-up, so they'll get mana this turn. We'll fight over a Doomsday if they do anything with that, but otherwise next turn we'll Brainstorm, hopefully find another land, and then we'll get to go Prismatic Ending, put something back, and then still have ForceofPhil. Great. So we'll put back the stock up. Actually, no. We can put back both lands. That way we can hold up ForceofPhil and Flusterstorm. And then if we can maintain, we can untap and stock up if we don't have to fight over that. I'm choosing to not play around days here. Arguably in that position, either I play the land and I hold up Fluster to fight over that, like I play around the days, but I don't think that that's what is going to matter. I mean, arguable that I'm supposed to just hit my land drop. Okay, Veil of Summer for the blowouts. So if I had just played this land and then I would have been able to I wouldn't have been able to force and Fluster. I wouldn't have been able to force. So both of these are interesting, both Flage and Fourth. I think we just have to take action. There's argument that you could have taken the land and gone Flage and land, but if they fight over either side of it, I think like the odds that we draw land, I think what I would like to do is I would like to Flage this down, or they could just have the kill, or they just already have the kill. So with 3 cards in hand, they can certainly win from here. This is Havoc. Let me know what you would have done different outside of like probably that sequencing at the end there with the playing around days on the Carpet of Flowers. Like Maybe I just have to commit to either playing around days and holding up Fluster, and not having Force. And then if they play a Teferi, then it's just, gobsmacked anyway. Regardless, I think that's the one turn where there was like a critical juncture of like, missequencing and being able to, because it was that days on the carpet that is making the difference. So I probably punted that. I mean, almost assuredly that's a 100% I punted that. But let me know if you would have boarded differently. I could see not having fourth Erling guy in the deck. But like this sort of deck is just like the exact type of thing we don't want to run against. It's the Thoughtseize Teferi Veil of Summer deck. Pretty bad. The Teferi Carpet of Flowers Veil of Summer Thoughtseize deck that's on Days and Forces. I don't know if this is a relevant decision. If they made a slow pile, then we could stock up into Force or Dress Down. All right, yeah. I mean, we're not going to kill them on the following turn, so let's just give ourselves the possibility that they just made a slow pile that they were just going to draw through. No way, with 3 cards in hand. But all right.
Eternal Dirtles is proud to be sponsored by MoxField.com. MoxField is the best deck building website on the internet. You can find all of my and Phil's decks in links below, including decks from this episode. And if you do, you'll be directly supporting the channel.
On to round 3. We're playing with Havoc's Jeskai control list. Okay, we're making some land drops. We got some Force of Wills and some removal spells. All in all, this is going to be soft to Wasteland, but the deck is already going to be reasonably soft to Wasteland given that we're playing 3 basics. And then everything else is in that space. But we have a way to, assuming that our white cards are good, which we have to do because that's the kind of deck that we're playing, that we have 2 removal spells that'll be able to contend with early threats or early plays. We have a Force to protect ourselves, and then we can rebuild with a stock up. So seems all in all like the kind of hand that we can't throw back. I think this is the type of hand where I'm willing to just spend turns throwing this thing back. If they want to be able to play around this Caracas, then they're going to have to play the Tamiyo plus a Brainstorm, in which case it'll just line it up for the Prismatic Ending, which I'm very content to do. They might also just be in a position where they can't redeploy it. I mean, they're going to redeploy it here. We're just going to put it back into their hand. If they, we're going to play this guy. This is going to be for a Surveil land. Before they go to combat, we will bounce it with Caracas, so they cannot make a clue. And then if they want to play a Brainstorm to flip this thing, they can do that. We're going to get the Thundering Falls, get ourselves the colors that our deck has. Don't think we want another land right now. If they spend another cantrip here, that's excellent. We will just follow up with a Prismatic Ending, and then we can actually spend time fighting over that. That's totally fine. 'Tis a war I'm happy to fight. Yeah, we'll let them get that Brainstorm. They're just going to be sifting cards back to the top of their deck. It looks like they pondered into that Brainstorm. They're going to draw a card off the bauble, so it's really just churning. It's churning through what the cards that they're already seeing. They're not getting any fixing here. You can take a look at what we're drawing. They see a ponder. Going to start here. We know this is going to go through, even if they had force blue card, because we win that war. Let's see. Do we want to spend spawner? I'd like to find a Brainstorm. I don't want any of these cards. Fluster is good. We'll hold up a Meticulous Archive or a Fluster on the follow-up. I also want to be able to get the Meticulous Archive after the fact. So next turn we can play Stock Up plus Fluster. Corey Steel Cutter, you say? Well, we'll fight over that. I think in this position, I have no reason to think that Fluster's not going to convert. We'll throw a Force on a Force. Typically, I don't like throwing Forces on Forces for decks with critical spells like that, but is this a moment? No. So I'm thinking to myself, like, is now the moment to fight over this Fluster or to fire off the Fluster, because we know that we're going to be able to untap and then stock up, but like, let's say they didn't find the Force there. If they're looking for another Corey Steel Cutter, I want to be able to go either find the blue card with Force off the stock up, and then be able to back that with a Fluster. I think Fluster's going to have a higher ceiling than catching that ponder. I could be wrong there. Havoc, let me know what you do. We do not need a turn in this position. We're going to hit our land out next turn. We're going to stock up plus Fluster. We will need to get a second red source if we want to get Flage online, because this is not something that can escape Flage. But we're a couple turns away from that, so I will play this, though. I'm going to hold up the Source to Plowshares that we have. Okay. Looks like we're going to could see taking the land here. Certainly going to take the stock up because we need that. I could see taking the Prismatic Ending because now that we know that they're a Corey Steel Cutter deck, we're going to want to be able to fight over that. It's probably reasonable to just take that since we're one Prismatic Ending down. And that's going to be somewhere where they're going to lean. They got 5 cards. I'm interested in doing that. If they find a second Tamiyo, we want the Prismatic Ending. If they find a Corey Steel Cutter, we want the Prismatic Ending. Corey Steel Cutter is one of the spots where we can't let that thing get too far out of hand. Flage will be able to hold down some number of it once we get there, but if they go super wide, we don't have an actual Wrath of God. Dragon Rage Channeler, also great. Happy to trade that with this Swords to Plowshares. Second Dragon Rage Channeler, great. I'm going to fire off the Swords to Plowshares now, that way they don't get... I mean, we could be playing around, like there's rationale to like not walk this into a daze, but I'm going to want to use this regardless, and then they're getting one less Surveil here. Like, arguable that like I don't walk into the daze either way, untap, use my 2 removal spells, and then just sit back on Fluster. Probably the more conservative and reasonable line to take. But I would really like to stock up, that way we can start getting our Flage online and not let this go too long, because if they're on a Quarry Steel Cutter build, I really don't want them to get into a position where this Quarry Steel Cutter is going to be live. And I'd rather be fighting over this stuff with our singleton removal stuff like Swords to Plowshares and Flage than with Prismatic Ending. Prismatic Ending, obviously great against Channeler. We will spend it if we have to. But I think that in this world... all right, so now we're going to go stock up, help solve all of our problems. That's one of them. I think ForceofPhil is the catch-all is the other one. No, let's get another white source here so we can double spell. We can get the plateau. That'll set us up for our Flage. Fight over this. They got 2 cards left. I'm going to do this now. They have another daze. They have another daze. 1 Flage will be able to pick all that up anyway. They have a Cutter. That's bad. And it's arguable that I keep that. But I think... not letting them get, a bunch of channeler triggers to find their stuff is going to be more potent. All right, so I don't want either of these lands right now. So let's start with a Brainstorm, see if we can clean this up. I am going to put back both lands here. If we need on the stock up to find a land so we can do something else, like we obviously want this Fury. Now I think it's reasonable to want a land drop. Could also see just taking a second Fluster. But if we find another removal spell, so how many we have? We've gone through 2 swords, 2 prismatic endings, so we could ponder. We could ponder into another removal spell potentially, in which case I wanted to take this Tundra. We could just take a second Fluster and then just have back-to-back Flusters, but they're on 3 mana, and the thing that I fear is Quarry Steel Cutter. So I think the thing to take is this Tundra. Let's play this Tundra. I can see a world where we hold up Brainstorm, so that way Fluster's more powerful, but I think if we can remove this Dragon Rage Channeler, that way they can't get any more triggers off of it to find what they're looking for. We can also just do this as a means to find another potential prismatic ending to get ahead, and then just untap and hit this thing with Flage. Okay, so now they're going face. I'll spend my... Next turn, I'm going to end up going Flage, get rid of both of these guys. So I'm cool spending the Fluster here after they have surveilled. Actually, it doesn't even matter. The Flage is just going to clean it up, and then we would just have Fluster on the back end. Say if we hit a land, then we can hold up Fluster anyway. And they're not delirious. Maybe if they were delirious, I would check it, but this Flage is just going to undo that bolt. All right, let's be a little patient. Yes, I'm walking into a daze. If they have a daze, they have a daze. But much rather clear this table. That'll do it. Great. All right, so Hydroblast certainly coming in. I mean, besides the DRCs also being a thing that can hit the Quarry Steel Cutter, really important. I think Pyroblasts, obviously really important. I like that way more than ForceofPhil in these types of matchups. I also think that Teferi is really poor in this matchup. Between bolts and, I mean, it does bounce a Murktide. But I think with Pyroblast and Swords to Plowshares, we're going to be indexed pretty well there. I could see an argument for just like taking out the dress downs, leaving in the ForceofPhils, and then we're just dense here. And then, between Flusterstorm and Pyroblast, we can ensure that our ForceofPhils are going to be lined up pretty well. I don't like anything else beyond that. Noah doesn't do anything against Quarry Steel Cutter. So like the argument becomes, do you play Dress Down just for the cantrip, or do you want to put the Teferi back in? I guess the Teferi has the highest ceiling. Havoc, what would you do in this matchup? It seems like you're sort of over-indexed for this. Like you have, some cards that are like, Teferi is just like the best of everything that isn't really good in the matchup. But like they're going to bring in Power Blast. So this thing just bouncing and cantripping to draw some time, I guess is really where it's at. They're certainly going to board their Graveyard Hate in, so I can't get rid of the 4th Erling guy. But I think we just lean on I guess we'll just cut a Teferi, but we'll do it like this. I guess there's argument that I already don't want the ForceofPhils in the deck, given what the matchup really is. I guess you could argue that instead of the Teferi, on the draw, the Force of Negations on the draw are going to be better. Let me know what you would have done. Can we keep this hand on the draw? We have the Hydroblast, which is really important against any of their turn 1 plays. 3 stock up is a lot. They didn't show me Wasteland at all last game, and I don't know if they would be a Wasteland deck since they want to be flurrying. We'll keep it for science. I think this might be a little soft because we're on the draw and we time for these cantrips to convert. And if they do play Wasteland, then that would get us, but they didn't show us Wasteland, and they saw a lot of cards last game. Turn 1, Brainstorm. Turn 1, main phase, Brainstorm. Is this a deck with Lotus Petals? This seems extremely aggressive. Start with the archive, bin anything that's not a land. So they brainstormed main phase, and now they're pondering. So did they think that the brainstorm, did they just miss on the brainstorm? Seems like it. They thought their hand was one land brainstorm was just going to do it. Similar to what we're doing. Funny. That's really funny. You and me both. You and me both, Rekindle. So in that one, we dropped a card, plus looked 4 cards, plus looked another card. So we had no land in our top 4, plus a shuffle, plus a look. So we have all 4 stock ups. Got a brainstorm. Get rid of these 3 drops. If they daze it, they daze it. We don't have the luxury to play around that right now. I think the argument was, do you fire off the Hydroblast to just go after the Channeler? But, we're in dire straits regardless either way. I don't know. I mean, I guess that the hand is super risky keep. Like, brainstorm, ponder, surveil land. So I'm thinking the surveil land on the draw, like we get a look. Then we surveil, get a look. Then we ponder, look, shuffle, get a look. Like, you would think that one of those things would be one of the other lands that are somewhere in the deck, but it's a risky keep. I could totally see that, like, that was just a bad keep. I figured with the Hydroblast, which is probably what the trap was, I was like, yeah, Hydroblast solves like the major problems that we have in the early game, which is exactly Dragon Age Channeler or a fast Koi Steel Cutter. But if this was one of the Teferis that would have been a Force Negation, it also wouldn't have solved anything because we wouldn't have been able to cast a Force Negation on our turn. This might just be a non-game here. They Pyroblast this and then draw on some fail, right? So I guess we can mock this one up to my poor choice of mulligan, but I'd be surprised if anybody was like, yeah, against the deck that doesn't have Wasteland, you have an answer to the early plays that you care about, and you have the option to go look, shuffle, look, and then still miss, and then double brainstorm on the follow-up, both of which have been fought over. Granted, you're not even thinking that far. You're just assuming that the land is that you will find the second land. But like, given that we had, so many stock ups that we really needed to hit land, like we needed to go run a runner. So I'm going to fire off this now. I have no reason to let them use a Pyroblast without fetching. I also think that like if they have Force Negation, which they haven't shown us yet, that's fine. If they want to fight over this, like, we have no choice. We just got to cast our spells and hope that we hit. This is going to be another Thundering Falls to Surveil to hopefully hit a third land. We'll play the Teferi, try and bounce this thing on the follow-up. If this draws onto the Red Blast, then we're at least 2 Red Blasts down. But we're sort of just casting spells on this one. This one isn't really. There's no real agency in this game outside of that mulligan, like missing now and then just drawing nothing but the top half of the deck. Oh, they are a Wasteland deck. Okay, so this game's now over. I guess they're hitting for 3. Now they're hitting for 6. I think that's enough. We'll go to the next one. Even if we do hit runner land, we're dead by that point. We need to both hit lands and removal spells now. So, but now that we know they're a Wasteland deck, that's helpful. So, on the draw, I was probably wrong to keep into Teferi. On the play, though, maybe this is still just the setup. I don't know. This is always going to be the problem against this is what I feared in early on. It's like, okay, so we are against the Days Wasteland deck. If it were just like a sort of like prowessy Koi Steel Cutter, no Wasteland deck, so they weren't messing with our mana, that's fine. But now that we know that there are Days Wasteland, it's like really tough to lean on these guys. Like, this isn't actually solving any of our problems in terms of getting things off the table, and they just get to Pyroblast it and then trade. So we're probably better just playing Force Negations and then dress down to Cycle, I guess. Cycle and slow them down, probably better. I can see a world where we just, ambush Viper. If we get into that spot, that seems pretty bad. It all seems pretty bad. All right, I think cycling is better than anything else. I think the Force Negations being able to fight over on stuff on their turn, we just try and line stuff up properly. We do like a Flage. So we have all our colors. We're going to hit our land drops. We have Force plus blue card if they play. I'm only going to use this on something that's really, really dire, like a Koi Steel Cutter. Otherwise, I'm going to assume that everything else outside, if they play a Dragon Age Channeler right now, I might... We'll consider fighting over it because I think we might be too far away on the Force side, on the Flage side of things, and this gets to play around a Daze. But Brainstorm being able to clean up a Flage is really important. But they just go bobble, and then I'm going to fight over this. This might be too aggressive. Havoc, what would you do? This might be too aggressive. But I think if we let this happen. If they want to force this back, that's fine. But if they really care about this, that is also going to get on time their Murktides. So like they would have just been able to do this, plus bubble, get a bunch of stuff down. We would have then had to like fight over this. Their dazes then become super live if we don't draw white cards, and then like they just get to convert a bunch of spells and then make their Murktide better, or Murktide come online faster in a way that we wouldn't be able to like actually cover. This also stops it. Like we are going to be exposed to Wasteland here, and this is going to get probably a Meticulous Archive. So if we're exposing ourselves this way, like we're also going to be exposed to Wasteland, I think we just have to keep the threat off the table. This is really just a speed Flage, I think, regardless of what this was, unless it was, you know, exactly reasonable cantrip or white removal spell, we're dumping it. I'm just going to play a second Tundra. If they play a Wasteland, I don't want them to be able to cut a color. They're not going to play around Pyroblast, but that's all right. Our next 2 turns are going to be sort of dictated in that it's going to be Flage, presuming that our top deck is not something that would hinder that. But like a lot of their plays that they would have available in this position that they would want to make anyway are just going to be undone by Flage. And if we Flage into, I'm happy to like Flage into any form of counter magic or interaction. The only problem is that if they brought in Surgical, we Flage, they Surgical, and then they strip the one out of her hand. So it is actually reasonable. If they don't make a play to the board, then I won't make a play to the board. Like we just have to assume that they saw Flage, and so we have to assume that they brought in Surgical to deal with Flage. And if they aren't committing anything to the board for Flage to actually recoup a card, I don't think that there's much value when we can't escape Flage on the following turn, even if we had the mana to do that. So this is going to expose ourselves, like this is exposing a red source to a Wasteland if they wanted to cut that. But I think it's just better to not, like we're so lenient on these Flages to be able to convert some sort of value for us that I don't want to expose myself to just something stupid and then just get, you know, I don't want Surgical to end the game on the spot when it's just like, why did you cast it? You didn't need to. Like the longer this game goes, the better it is for you. And right now they're burying us under cards, but they're mana deprived. So they brainstorm preordained. So their hand is, you know, perfect. Just Murktiding. So Murktiding for the full boat. I am going to take a draw step here, see if we draw Fluster. Fight over this. They'll fight back. I guess not. I'm going to let them still go after the, like, Wasteland, go after the red source if they want to do that. I would like them to, like, you know, chomp at the bit. Okay, so Quarry Steel Cutter coming in is going to be a problem, but we still have plenty of prismatic endings in the deck. We have all of our cantrips still in the deck. Like, we are drawing very much live here, but instead we drew a third Flage. How about a third Flage? All right, well, now I really don't want to go into the Surgical plan now. I don't want to give them rationale to, if they fire off the Surgical to try and get and maybe I'm way too conscious that like Surgical could be a problem, but I just don't think that, just double checking to make sure my sound is okay. Great. I just don't see the rationale for exposing oneself to that when this Flage is going to be able to check these tokens for a bit. They haven't gone up on cards yet. Like the Quarry Steel Cutter is making them things, but as long as we can keep this down to a couple of tokens at a time, Flage can tussle. I'd really like to find something to turn off this Quarry Steel Cutter. I mean, a Brainstorm would really be our best draw this to get away from. Stock up. Do we stock up first? Yeah, let's stock up to try and find land prismatic ending. No, if we stock up, it's clunky. If we stock up, it just gets hit by Pyroblast. And then we probably fall too far behind. But then if they Surgical and clip both of our Flages, that's just so bad. They have 6 cards in hand, and it's just exactly the 6 that they want out of their deck because they've cantripped so many times. They've all 4 Brainstorms. They've spent all 4 Brainstorms. I get that one of them was bad. All right. We're gonna not get bowled over here. We're gonna slow things down. If they have a Surgical, they have a Surgical. But I don't want to walk into a Pyroblast and then get clipped. They're gonna spend a Force on this. Do they have another? And I'm not gonna do anything else this turn, so it's not gonna help them fury-wise, unless they have another spell. They pitched a Brazen Borrower. A second Quarry Steel Cutter is horrendous. Now the game is probably over. I don't think we can come back from this position. We're just too clunky. I think this is a position where I'm going to have to stock up to play around Red Blast and just find land. I mean, we got to find prismatic endings. This is really it's not it. Guess we go Scalding Tarn Brainstorm and Flage. Something. Prismatic ending too slow. All of our white sources are gone, so we're just dead. Too clunky. Maybe I should have just been flaging that whole time. Just seemed risky. Do we have an out? I don't think we have an out. Well, I guess that's close to an out, but all of our guys have trample. But let's say we Swords to Plowshares one of them. We somehow don't die. They only single spell. 3 cards, let's say they only single spell. But then next turn we kind of have to just double flage to... we'll still put it on top. Because I don't know what a better draw would be than that. Are we out of it? Let's say they don't cast a spell. If they don't cast a spell, then we are still taking 5. Okay. So I think that, like, besides my mulligan, I think the real lick on that one is we're clunky against the Day's Wasteland shell. I don't know. I'm sort of aloof on that one. I mean, we had really, really bad draws that last game. Like, really bad draws. But I don't think that that's necessarily... I mean, you know, give back the game that the Ponder missed on the opener from that Surveil Land Keep. But against that one, I mean, that sort of matchup is the type of thing that I was sort of worried about, where it's like, we should be good in that, like, we are white cards and flage. But the thing is that, like, Day's Wasteland on a fast clock is different than, like, Dimir Tempo is easier in that, like, they're trying to build their way up to, like, Barragoyf and Tamio, and they're more mid-rangey and slow and less punishing than, you know, DRC, Delver, Day's Wasteland. Even though they're Day's Wasteland, like, they're not hitting quite as fast. Like, they give more time to recoup. They're not playing reach. I think, like, sort of against that, I think we might need to consider, like, leaning the curve out a bit. I think Teferi might be not what the deck needs, in that it's not really solving any problems that the deck has. And I think it would be better to lean out into what? I'm not sure necessarily. I think you have to think about, like, I mean, Havoc, what are you playing the Teferi's for? Is it just like you want to play instant speed prismatic ending and then stock ups? I mean, if you're in that position, like, you're already doing way, you're way ahead in those positions to begin with if you have the Teferi on the table. So, like, is it just a matter of, like, sticking the Teferi? I would think that, like, the best plan that we could do is, like, trade, stock up, and then from there, just, like, lean into going big. I don't think we would need... Like, the positions that we're in is like, okay, we're soft at Day's Wasteland. Oh, no, fuck. Sorry. I misclicked on that one. But, like, we're already on Day's Wasteland. This is a spot. I'm gonna get this one back for you in some way, because I misclicked there, unfortunately. I just want the okay and the pass through the turn to be keys on the opposite end of the board, rather than, like, oh, I accidentally, like, moved one finger instead of another finger, and then therefore... But we're playing against Dimir Tempo. Even though we're on the draw and we have time walked, I don't necessarily think that we are out of this game. Surprisingly enough, unless you know how good the matchup might be. So because we time walked ourselves, I'm going to play around not losing to Wasteland and letting them chunk in. If we don't draw a removal spell, then I know that the following turn we're going to spend our mana stocking up. And so in this position... where we're getting punished for the time walk. But in this position, I know that I would like to use the dress down to time walk this Nethergorf. It's possible that I, like, am supposed to not, in that position, let them fire off a days so that I can grow this thing, but because they're going to take the stock up, and then we're sort of at the mercy and hoping to draw Flage. So maybe I wasn't supposed to fire off the dress down there at all. So again, I dislike Teferis. It's just, I don't think it's solving any of the problems. I think it's the weakest card in the deck. This is really a combo card. I also think this card shouldn't exist in any format. It's just it's abysmal to exist. But I don't think it's worthwhile here. It's bad against Bowmaster. If you're bouncing something, you're bouncing something that's a 1-drop. You're just getting bad mana utility. It's just not where you want to be. What are we playing instead? I don't necessarily know what we care about. I guess you play it as a 1-of, again. Otherwise, all the other stuff in your deck is, like, what we want in the matchup, so let's get after it. It's a good matchup. I have confidence in it. So I can see the argument. We're going to have to... We can lean on basics and then just play a little bit longer with this Flage. I don't care much to keep this Force, but I do care about that Swords to Plowshares. And the land underneath is also something that I'm interested in drawing. So if we get to a position where if they Thoughtseize and take a stock up, they'll have to, like, consider this Force of Will unless they want to take this Force of Will. In which case, I'm happy that they're taking the Force of Will, and then we're just going to be able to go grind. They don't know about the source of plowshares that we're going to present. Hold up. Like now, if they run out, if they pass turn, great. If they run out something, we get the source of plowshares, untap, and then stock up. If they run something that we like don't want to source the plowshares because we want to save it or don't move, they know about double stock up now. I think I'm just going to run out this because we don't have, this can't get the mountain. I will run this into a daze. They don't even care. I think we have source to plowshares covering Murktide. I think we just go, we have plenty of clunk, but given that I want to be able to grind, I'm just going to take, I think we just take second sword stock up. Could see an argument. Here they're going to have Bowmaster in the end step. So we're going to have to clean that up. And I think that's going to be a Flage clean that up. If they flip a Tamiya, we would care about needing a prismatic ending. But then we have Pyroblast somewhere in the deck that we can also use to deal with that. So I think I'm just going to take stock up, source to plowshares, be able to play at instant speed when we need to. And otherwise, Flage is going to clean a bunch of stuff up. And they know about Flage, so they have to consider whether or not they want to walk into that or they're going to fight over it. But I'd be really surprised if they were just passing on 2 mana and not doing anything. I'm just going to run out of Bowmaster. So Bowmaster's in. They didn't daze last turn, so they would have had to have drawn it this turn. And if they daze a Flage, I mean, Flage is going to be really far away. We have a second white source, so I'll get the Volk here. The scariest thing they probably do right now is play a third land, attack here, bounce it, Kaido's in, Kaido goes off, in which case we would need to stock up to find a Pyroblast. They just go Baragorf, that's great. We're rolled up on swords to fight over that. We have the Caracas for a Tamiyo to line that up. This game is now rolling up the way we want it to roll up. I think I'm just going to start with swords to plowshares. See what they want to do about that. Nothing. I'm going to stock up. Okay. So looks like we're just going to take land Fluster. Is there reason to take land? They play a second wasteland and cut us off red, then we would want double red, in which case it's okay to take Tarn. I think we might be in a position at some point where we want to fight over. I mean, they haven't fought over anything thus far, and I don't know if Fluster is going to be something that's appealing to us. Maybe we do just want land. That way we can play through a second wasteland since Flage is going to be critical to us, and we do need a second red source. So we get a second red source, we could Flage, but if they cut us off, then we would need second red source because this island's not doing it. So let's do that. I'm okay doing that. We'll pass it back. And we have another stock up to keep digging through. In which case, if that's the case, I also would like to hit my land drops to not walk into a daze. Also, if they ever find a Tamiyo and they find a second wasteland, they're going to want to cut it on this Caracas because they're spending a brainstorm right now. Okay, Thoughtseize going to take the stock up. That's bad. Might take the plow, actually. You can see them taking the plow. Yeah, they'll take the plowshares. Lean into going for a Murktide. We still have this Flage that's going to be able to escape from the yard momentarily. Yeah, if they're not going to fight at the moment, I think I'm going to escape this Flage. So let's get basic mountain. Sure, we'll get a basic. I'm just surprised that they're not putting up any resistance against anything that we've been doing. I'm not casting this Ponder. We don't know, playing around Bowmaster, but okay, Fatal Push, that's fine. I think I don't know if we want to find a source of plowshares or a prismatic ending. And so given that, I'm not going to use the Ponder just yet. Since we need to line up our spells properly, and we are not under pressure, our life total is relatively high, and we have just as many cards. Now I know what we need to find, but this Caracas is also going to check this. So I'm going to attempt to Flage this down, and then if they try and brainstorm in response, even though they've used 2 brainstorms, I'll bounce it with Caracas, and that'll stick. In which case, again, I don't think we have reason to move. I'll play the Scalding Tarn, and we'll use it as a surveil on the follow-up, but until then, I don't know what we're going to need. Do we need a Pyroblast, or do we need a Source to Plowshares? If they play a Baragorf, I'm going to want a Source to Plowshares. If they play a Kaito, I'm going to want a Pyroblast. Either would work with Prismatic Ending, but I still think that it is a reasonable thing to not move on this Ponder just yet. They have 2 cards. If they do nothing, we get to stock up with Ponder on the follow-up. This is the position we want to be in. If they try and tap out for a hardcast Force, we just get to catch it. That's even more interesting. I think they're holding up a hardcast Force will with 2 cards left. So, if that's the case, then I'm just going to Fourth and Fluster them. The Fear of God of this Pyroblast in their way, and then Fluster them. That's the Force that we were expecting. Fluster down your shit, game over. If their last card was, if they had hardcast Force plus, days, and they catch this, so be it. Him to Turox them, and then we get to follow up with a stock up and a Ponder, and we're certainly still winning that game. So get in there. This game is over. We're in garbage time. Shoot Tech can play it as long as they'd like, but this game's over. Bowmaster, you say? It's fine. So if they ping and block, I'm just going to escape this Flayage. Bitter Triumph as an additional card. Pay 3 life to destroy a creature. Okay, well done. You destroyed that creature. That creature was indeed destroyed. All right, so now we're on the draw, but I don't think that this necessarily changes anything we want. I could see an argument for getting rid of the Teferi and bringing in a Force of Negation. Potentially, I could see a Force of Negation just to, like, fight over stuff in the early game, but I think a 1-up Teferi is also totally fine. In that it's not going to be that much better than Force Negation, in that there's not a critical juncture spell that we care about. It would just be like, okay, we swords, they force the swords, and then we force the negation that if that is a critical juncture point, which I don't foresee that really being the case. So I think the upside of Teferi is just going to be better than that, assuming that we draw our white cards. Okay, so this 4th Aerolingus is not a card that we want to see in our opening hand. It's unfortunate that we have it. Double Fluster is also not great. Granted that all the threats that we care about early on, Fluster is only good when paired with our white spells. On the draw, in particularly, I think that this might be a little too anemic. Like, we're going to hit our land drops. This is a hand that I am unsure about. Havoc, if you were playing this hand, Double Fluster, 4th Aerolingus, I think that those are effectively all mulligans individually. I do like land, and Ponder to search what we're looking for, but, like, we're going to need the Flusters are mana intensive. The 4th is already a mulligan. Maybe if this were brainstorming, could clean this up, but because it's a Ponder, I think this is a mulligan on the draw. I think this is a lot better. We actually have the stuff that we need in the early game, and we can just put back a land. Putting back a land, we have Force plus blue card if we need it, which I think we would potentially, if they play like something like Tameo, and then we have to fight over it, and then they want to force, and then we force back, and then we just need to, rely on drawing a stock up at some point to rebuild. I think we'll have a little bit more time. They'll Thoughtseize and take something. I think this is a spot where I'm certainly going to use my mana, and I think I want to use that mana now. I think I also am going to just presume that we are going to need to not get wasted, so I'm going to get a Plains, and I'm going to spend a Prismatic Ending. And then if they force it, I will force back. If they daze it, so be it. I'll run it back on the following turn. I think this is like one of those spots where it's like, Phil, you can play around daze. No, we're on the draw. And if we try to play around daze and get a Meticulous Archive, we would expose ourselves to Wasteland, in which case that daze would still get turned on. It would give them access to potentially, like, let's say they didn't have the daze, like, this is the Ragavan effect, right? Like, there is no room to play around daze in this spot. Like, if they have Tameo plus daze on the play, then at least in this spot, unlike Ragavan, which is drawing them a card and, drawing them 2 cards, a Lotus Petal plus a card, this was just making them a clue. Here they're going to flip. I have to force this, I think. I think this is going to be too fast since we don't have the Prismatic Ending. Like, them just having all this stuff, like, rolled up, like, okay. Like, if they have Force plus blue card here, and which they do, so they have a God Hand here on turn 1. They have Tameo, land, Force, blue card, Daze, Brainstorm, all this on the play. This all is the type of thing where it's like, I don't know, is it reasonable? Like, maybe there's the argument that I should fire off the Swords to Plowshares here in the start. That way, if they daze it when they flip it now, that way the Prismatic Ending would have text. I think that's the only rational argument to make there, is that you go swords. But I think that, like, we have to presume that if they have if they have all of this lined up, like, then we're dead to, like, really any follow-up. So, like, now they're going to be able to pick up a Force of Will, and then we're probably in the shitter because they just get to protect this and go all the way to the end. Like, we drew a second Swords to Plowshares, but if we drew a second Prismatic Ending, of which, there was 3 of each still left in the deck, and that's just, like, the unfortunate side of the draw. I think the only agency that we had this game based on, like, we opened our hands and the hands lined up how they did, and I think the only rational argument that you could make is, like, oh, yeah, like, we could have played the Swords to Plowshares instead of the Prismatic Ending, so that if they did have days, then we could follow up, and then that's just what the game is about. And then in that case, the game is universally and wholly about Tameo. They're going to let this go. They're not going to spend their force on it. They will spend the force on the Teferi if we had, which we don't. Like, I think if we look back and be like, okay, we need to line up our 7s such that they are like, drawing the Prismatic Ending is good. I think if it was like we need to line our hands up such that this is just like what it's going to look like. They're going to force this. We're going to force back. They pitched another Hydroblast. Like, I don't think anything about this game has been interesting. I think we have lined up our 7s, and then, that's it. Like, the only agency that mattered was, do we play the Source of Plowshares first instead of vice versa. And then we drew the, one of each of the follow-up on the white cards. And then they have a follow-up Bowmaster. But I don't think otherwise this game has had any agency involved. There was that one decision, which I could see going either way, assuming that like the game is going to go long, as opposed to the game just going immediately into the shitter on a turn 1 Tamiyo. Like, we just devolved the game down to where I'm top decking, they're top decking, but they have a clue because the Tamiyo put them over the top. It's going to be a Surveil land. We'll get the Thundering Falls and then hope to find any of our stock-ups or flages. If they want to cut us off red, they can cut us off red. We just need to get into some action here. It's possible that I'm not supposed to fetch there. They'll do this, cut this off red. It's totally fine. We're back in the top deck wars. But like, in that spot, they cut us off blue if I get the mountain. So, all right. So what are the odds that they draw a second wasteland before we draw another relevant thing? Possible. Just like, yeah, Days Wasteland. Let's find another Bowmaster. Sick rip. Follow Bargoyf. So if nothing else happens that I like, as long as they don't do anything that I need to spend this Force of Will on, we're going to 4. We'll go to 3 off this fetch when we need to get a red source. But I am going to end step Dress Down, because if we end step Dress Down, that means that if we draw Ponder or Brainstorm, we can actually cast it, not die. Now this does make it so that Flage can't kill a thing, but it would be on the board, in which case we would only die to a Fatal Push or some sort of removal spell. So we get paid off because we drew the Brainstorm instead of the Awkwardness. This is not at all what we need. So if we go to 2, man, this game sucked shit. All right, so that'll keep us alive. We're dead to so many things, so very many things, and the difference was on the play turn 1 Tamiyo Days force, like just the Nutter Butter hand that's like extremely uninteresting and doesn't create for anything like enjoyable. Engineered Explosives for 0, that's fine because we're dead either way. Just not what it's about. We need a Flage right now. There it is. Somehow, some way, we're alive. Very Macabre, exiling the Flage and a Source to Plowshares. That's fine. Stock up. All right, we're holding up Open Force. It's a good thing that they got rid of the Flage for themselves, otherwise we would have escaped it. I'll spend this Force on literally whatever they do. Yep, I don't think this is getting any better for us. Prismatic Ending, Pyroblast. Okay, so what could they do that we would care about? If they play a Murktide, we can Pyro it. If they play a Barrowglyph, we can Prismatic Ending it. They put anything else on the stack. Does this buy us 2 turns? Assuming this card in their hand is a blank, does this buy us turns to get through so we can fetch? Thundering Falls is gone, so this is just a fetch. Essentially, the question is, we're going to keep the Pyroblast. Do we keep the Prismatic Ending? And I think that the answer is a high enough yes. Well, if they have another Bowmaster, there's 1, 2 Bowmasters down. If they draw Bowmaster, then this isn't good enough because they get to go ping 3, hit us for 2, down to 1, and then the Prismatic Ending can't deal with it. So I think I'll keep the Pyroblast. I'll keep the Pyroblast. No, because then if they play Nethergoyf, then we're still also dead. We need Flage again. All right, I'll put the Pyroblast on top. Play this Flooded Strand. If they don't do anything, we'll pass. We'll keep the Pyroblast. If they, this is just keeping our options open. If they do nothing, I think we fetch. Let's get the Underground Seas so that way Prismatic Ending is live for our hardcast Kaito. Pyroblast back. Okay. Just trying to maximize draws. I'm going to fight over that. Pyroblast is soft to too many things that would kill us. I'll sit on that. We've used 2 Brainstorms. Okay. If they cut a red, they could go after black because they don't know what it's about. They're not going to go after anything. Okay, they're going after red. It's okay. We have a second red source. Stock up is what we're looking for. I am going to play this mountain out. Stock up. We'll take 4th Ponder. We now know that this Ponder will be valuable to us if we find a Prismatic Ending to hit this Engineered Explosive, so that way 4th Aerolingus is live. Oh man, I don't want to draw either of these lands, but I do want to draw Stock Up. So in the event that they draw Thoughtseize, I'll keep the Crocus, which will check a Tamiyo. Next turn we'll Stock Up, breeze past the other land. At least this is solving something possible. This is a potential solve for something. But I don't think I think Stock Up is too high value to take a random shuffle, since we're looking for something specific. And now we're certainly looking for something specific. Okay, so we can't 4th because then we die. So we are back to stocking up. If I go this, we find Flage, Brainstorm, any order. Gonna have to Brainstorm first because otherwise we're enough dead. Prismatic Ending is good enough. We'll take it. That'll get rid of the Barrowgoyf. We'll put the 4th down now that we don't really need it anymore. I'll put the Stock Up underneath. That way they can't Thoughtseize it. If they take the Flage, that'll help. That'll speed us up. Prismatic ending this thing. White, red, blue. Clawed back so far into this dumpster fire of a game. All right, Kaito's fine. We have the Power Blast to clean that up. They get to loot. Oh no, they just get to surveil. We didn't lose life, so they just get to surveil. So fight over that with a Power Blast, and then we'll get some beats going. Blue, white, stock up. We'll take Dress Down, Power Blast, any order. I understand that. I cut myself off of red, but we wanted to get through that stuff. Flage will kill plenty fast enough if we have the window. The argument is I shouldn't have spent red on the stock up on herd chef. That's fine. We're gonna Crocus that back. All right, red, white, Flage. I'm doing the loop here. I just want to gain some life and put the Fear of God into them. They're going to recast their Tamiyo. We're going to Power Blast it. I'm going to end step Dress Down. I'm going to Flage. Now that they know about Flage, they're going to go after the Volk. They're going after the Caracas. That's so good. So good. That's a misevaluation of what matters. Counter target spell if it's blue. Come on, please work here. Thank you. We're wasting time because Moto is slow to click. I am on it. I'm ready to win this game. This dumpster fire of a game. I'm ready to win it. Dress Down. Casted it. Thank you. Ponder. All right, we're going to take a Fluster, a Scalding Turn, Fluster and a Swords. We'll take a Fluster and a Swords. Play this Flage. Come on, Moto. Come on, Moto. All right, Ponder. Flage, not bad. Red, white, red, white. Come on, 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 come on. Go, go, go. All right, the odds that we get to do this in time going to be pretty shockingly nil. So my clock is still going. I pressed OK. All right, so with this follow-up Flage, we just need to get in for one attack, and we cast the thing and then dome them, and then we win the game. Can we do it, folks? Can we get there? Can Flage close this out? 7 seconds, 6 seconds, 4 seconds. Go, 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 go. Die! Die! Did we get it? We got it! Ended up being an exciting game for one that was in the absolute shitter early on. Man, get that nonsense out of here. Well, turns out, matchup's reasonable. We lost the game where we time walked ourselves, but then won all the other ones. So I think like so far, for those of you just joining us, we're playing Havoc's Jeskai control list as a donation deck list. If you would like to donate a deck to see played on stream, on the channel, not on stream, but on the channel, go to patreon.com/eternaldurdles and get on in there. So you can choose between Zach or I to play your deck. And we'll go through leagues and, discuss the deck, figure out if the person who you choose pilots the deck in a way that you find reasonable with your choices, or if you think that they're just doing absolute trash. Possible that I'm doing absolute trash here, 2-2. But I think that this type of control list is very good against the decks where the matchup lottery falls in your favor. I think that like right now, the Flusterstorm's main deck as a way to try and offset that a bit is a reasonable way to go. But I think that the combination between ForceofPhil and Fluster as the only meaningful counter magic in the main is going to be soft a lot of the time against the decks that can beat it up, because there's a lot of combo decks that don't care about Fluster. Although I think that the idea is good. I think the deck building choice is solid. But I think that that's just going to be naturally the place where this falls in. And I think something that can help clean that up a bit is just having these Teferis be anything else to help shore those things up. I understand the value between Teferi and Dress Down, but I think that Teferi is not doing enough to solve any problems. And it itself is clunky. And it will only be good in the matchups. It will only be good in the matchups where you're already doing pretty well. If you're playing against combo, you're going to have to use your counter magic well before this thing touches the table. You're not going to actually be able to fight over this thing against combo if you need to save that for the thing that kills you, as opposed to this thing, which is then not going to stop their combo. So I think all in all, I think Teferi is just the softest part of the deck. So again, playing against some Wasteland strategy that just Wastelanded my Thundering Falls in the blind. So I think I played against this deck list on a different donation deck list video that I was playing, where it was sort of this mid-rangey, I guess, Jund list that, as long as we can not lose to like a grist that is we can't deal with for whatever reason, I think we'll otherwise be okay. I am very likely I would like to solve this hand a little bit, play around a Bowmaster, Caracas we're not going to need. Basic Mountain I would rather not necessarily have to work with right now. If I remember correctly, they weren't doing any sort of like wasteland loops. So I'm just going to slow them down from getting one of their heavier, chunkier 3-drops that we don't care about, or that we would care about. I'm spending the Source of Plowshares because if they were just to go play the Mana Dork into a Grist, then our hand is just not set up to deal with that, and then it's just going to get out of hand, and we don't have a sweeper in our deck, so if they get a bunch of tokens down, then this Teferi gets really soft. So knowing that, I'm just going to not let that happen this turn. If they do anything on the following turn, like if they do nothing here, we'll stock up. If they played to the board, we would have Teferi bounced it. I'm going to presume that they're holding up a Bowmaster here, and so I'm just going to stock up. They Bowmaster. It's going to cut this Brainstorm and this Ponder, but now we know that we can look for an answer to this Bowmaster, so now we're looking for an answer to Bowmaster plus a land. So we found an answer to a Bowmaster. We did not find a land, but I'll take the ForceofPhil for a follow-up. So now this ForceofPhil will check pretty much anything that they do. If we hit a land, we can go to Teferi plus Plow probably, and then just clean up this board. I could also see a world where, like, you know, we sword the Bowmaster. They don't have a way to interact with it, and then the Teferi is actually the pitch. All right, do we care about this thing? It's the combo piece. I didn't know they were on Witherbloom Apprentice with Smog combo, but Selah. I'm going to fight over it. I'm going to pitch this to Teferi. We missed our land drop, and we have the stock up, which is a higher value proposition. Flage would also be crazy on this board. Flusterstorm. All right, let's stock up. Find ourselves a land drop. Or we could just miss all the way around. It looks really deep for this land. 2 stock ups and a draw step. No land and 11 in cards. There's no way I'm not using all my mana that turn. Like, I do not condone the Swords to Plowshares plus Ponder Brainstorm after they cast the Witherbloom and tapped out. Okay. I would like to spend my mana efficiently. So we're going to Prismatic Ending this. Ponder. Look for that land. Will do. We'll take another 2. Otherwise, I would like to get a second red source. Probably this Thundering Falls. It's arguable that I get the Plateau and then I source this Plowshare or something, but until I see it for good, I'm not going to worry about this particular board where they're missing tons of land drops. What do you got, fam? What do you got? Graveyard Trespasser. Wow. You're telling me that I'm going to get to speed up this Flage? Going to discard a card off the board? Whether this creature enters or attacks. Yup. You have a Trespasser. If it's a creature card exiled this way, what does this do? Each opponent what? Loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. You got it. Wow, what a turn of events for us. Let's get this Plateau. Let's get rid of this thing. Discard this on the ward and tap. Thank you for enabling us. Hit your Mana Dork, and it's daytime. This is not the most exciting of games. We're playing against a brew, and it's a brew that is not really well suited against a bunch of removal, and it's not going to fight back on the stack. It's not doing anything obscenely broken. It's just trying to play good, clean Magic. While I respect the desire to do such things, that is not the world of Legacy anymore. We do not like you, Grist. No, we don't. Let's get a blocker out of the way. Dome him for 6. Just sit on the Brainstorm. No need to use it just yet. Collector. Oof, you got it, my friend. You're locked out of playing creatures, my guy. There's a Flage on the table. Green Sun. You have Green Sun for 0. My artifacts cannot be activated. Dome your Dryad Arbor. You're at 9. I have no need to move just yet. I'm told the best Brainstorms are the ones you don't cast. I don't know. Sheoldred's Edict. Each opponent sacrifices a creature of their choice. All right, well, yeah, I'm interested maybe in finding a Fluster now. ForceofPhil, that's kind of cool. It's kind of sweet. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. It's kind of sweet. Okay, should we go with the kill by bouncing with Teferi Time Raveler, or should we go Flage, attack, kill, bounce it, recast it, and then dome them again? We haven't shown them Teferi. Bing, bang, boom, on the board. All right, so let's see. What do we got? What do we even care about? I don't think we have anything. We can bring in Containment Priest. That's thus Green Sun Zenith shenanigans. That's kind of fine. But otherwise, I don't think that there's anything else. I mean, Teferi is probably the softest thing. We just don't care. We don't need anything. There's not really anything that we want to bounce back into their hand. I could see a world where Force Negation is also better than the other 2 Teferis. I think it's reasonable. I don't believe in Teferi in these sort of like mid-rangey matchups. The static doesn't really matter all that much, even though they're playing things like Endurance and Bowmaster. I know they're playing Endurance because I played against them in a different league. So I think just like stopping the Green Sun Zenith stuff is more interesting than anything that Teferi would otherwise do. Cool. All right. 2 lands. 2 removal spells. Counterspell. Stock up. Seems pretty sweet. Soft to Wasteland, but there's not going to be really many hands that aren't. I'm going to slow them down. This can't hit a Grist. because it's a creature on the stack, I believe. We're going to be soft to Wasteland no matter what, but now they at least can't 2-spell because we cut them off the Dryad Arbor. Drew a land like we never didn't have it. Surgical are tundras, you say? Well, I'm going to have to take a look at our deck list. Can our deck list win if they cut our 2 tundras? Sure can. That surgical has happened. Our 2 tundras are gone. No more tundras for us. So they're down to 4 cards. We have 2 removal spells that they know about, a dress down that they know about, a force negation that they know about. We're going to rebuild this stock up in a couple turns. Everything is coming up roses. There's nothing that they can do that we fear significantly enough. Wow. A Knight of Infamy. It has protection from white. I got a dress down. And we can dress that down. Can't flage it, though. Gonna have to pair it with a dress down. Yeah, I'll take a ponder. Yeah, we'll take a ponder. Spend my turn pondering. All right. We'll keep this plains. So I think their best draw is a Green Sun Zenith. So depending on what they do this turn, I'm interested in keeping this Containment Priest around. And there it is. So Green Sun for 1. Do we care? I think this would just get a mana dork, in which case I'm okay with it. Their best draws going along are certainly going to be Green Sun Zenith, so I'm happy to have the Containment Priest around. And then we get to hold up Dress Down or Containment Priest on this next turn. I am going to cut them off their mana. They have 3 cards in hand. I don't want to get them to get to a critical juncture of Wither Bloom combo. We're well suited to beat that, but I can't think, like, this is sort of a freebie matchup in how these deck lists align. But now that we know that they're showing us red, they definitely have Pyroblast. It's possible that they fight over this Pyroblast here, or this Dress Down with a Pyroblast. Obviously still going to do it. And then we'll just stock up and find another Dress Down if that's where we end up going. We had the Source of Plowshares to play around an opposition agent there, so if they were tanking, thinking, oh, opposition agent, they know about the Source of Plowshares in our hand. Okay, Endurance comes in. I guess if they want to set us back on Flage, that's fine. Certainly not what the game's about at the moment. So I'll play this. We'll go white, red, white. Well, do I want to put a Flage in right now? I think so. I think that's probably our best line. We'll just spend this Swords on the Knight and then Flage with a 6/6 in play, lock this thing down. They're on 2 cards. Okay, and then we have a Force of Negation to just protect it no matter what. Might not even need to deal with this, but pro white against Flage just means that we can't shoot it down and then it can block the Flage, and then we have to, like, find our 4th Aerolingus, and I just don't think we don't need to get into the trenches while we're so far ahead. So yeah, I can't force a negation. It is a creature on the stack. It's a legendary creature planeswalker, so it'll get through. Sacrificing a creature to deal with this Flage, that's fine. I'm going to start with a stock up. So Prismatic Ending deals with the Grist, and I think now I want to can take Caracas as our land drop, which is valuable, or I could take another blue card. I'll take the Ponder. Do I take... There isn't any instant or sorceries outside of Green Sun Zenith that I would care about, but that would also be covered by this Containment Priest if we take the Caracas. I think Force Negation covers a Green Sun Zenith as well, but so does a Fluster. All right, so let's take the Fluster, and then we're covered on a couple different axes, and we'll just pass the turn. See the argument for just taking the Ponder. That way you can Ponder on the follow-up, escape, Ponder for land, then have enough cards to escape the Flage when they're so far behind. But we're going to deal with this Grist first. I guess there's also the rationale that, like, you Ponder, you find the land, and then you can Grist, you can Flage down. Arguable that would have been better. Probably arguable that that would have been better. I'm playing a little bit too conservative. We're really far ahead, and we should just be putting the hooks in. We're rolled up on a bunch of stuff. We'll escape the Flage next turn, take out this token, start beating down. It's all fine. It's all well and good, fam. It's all well and good. They'll put us to 9. There is nothing in their 3 cards that I could really fear, given what our hand is. Is this a world where we want to Flage, or do we want to stock up? Let's stock up. I would like to find a land, and this Containment Priest will eat this thing in combat. Blank a Green Sun Zenith if they try and do it next turn. Bowmaster is okay. Now we know what we're looking for, and we'll also be able to Flage on the untap. Again, might be playing too conservative. Take this Force of Will. Take, I guess, Brainstorm. Any order. Pass the full grip. Nothing can happen to us. We'll take 3, go to 5, Flage. The only thing that would matter is a Fairy Macabre, but they show the Surgical as their choice. I guess a Wasteland also hinders us pretty hard. Take us off second white. Well, now let me check if we have enough white sources in the deck. We have a Caracas left and a Plateau left to escape this Flage, because our Tundras are gone. We will ambush this Bowmaster in combat. This Bowmaster will be contained. I'll put 3 copies of Flusterstorm on the Shieldred's Edict. Go to block. If they want to fire enough with another removal spell, we'll fight over it again. Another Shieldred's Edict. Fight over that. Block this Bowmaster. The only thing that we really lose to at this point is another Wasteland. So I can see the rationale. While this board is locked, we have a force for whatever they do. They're at 1 card. We'll go to 2. This will take us to 1. We'll untap, we'll Flage, we'll go back up. And then there's not going to be an out for them. Like, if they find exactly Bowmaster, they will have gotten us. Hex Drinker is not enough. They can level this up, protection from instants. If they level it up again, protection from everything. Okay, so Hex Drinker going to level 8, protection from everything, will be too much to overcome. What do we got? Protection from instants, so we would need to go. Force won't do it. We talked ourselves out of this game. Possible that we did. All right, so what do we got? This is a 4/4. So Flage wouldn't be enough. So I have to just spike a Prismatic Ending. All right, should have just, when in doubt, just Flage. That's what I've learned. Okay, so this is protection from instants right now. Get that at 6. Show me what your thing does. There you go. Protection from instants. Okay. We were so far in the trenches, and then I threw the game away. This can be you all. You can all donate a donation deck list, and I can just sit there and die with a Flage in my hand. Okay. So on the play, apologies for that one, fam. That was probably the poorest play anybody could possibly do. Everybody thinking to themselves, Phil, you should have just escaped Flage and won that game very handily. You're absolutely right. But now we get the most magic possible, which is what we should all aspire to with a donation deck. We should all aspire. So we have fetchers to lead on basics. So we're going to lead on basics. If they go turn 1 Mana Dork, which is their best play, we'll source Plowshares. Or maybe we'll just start doing Surveilling because we want to be able to turbo a Flage. That does open us up to Wasteland. It's also possible that that's just a reasonable thing. Yeah, I think I'm interested in not worrying about Wasteland just so we can fuel this Flage. Let's get the Archive. If they hold up Bowmaster, great. I will just fetch a Surveil Land. If they do anything else, we will probably Flage it. When in doubt, Flage. I'm ForceofPhil. Thoughtseize. Would like to protect this stock up. I am interested in stock up protection. Happy to trade that. Okay, so traded the Red Blast. They're going to take this stock up. We're going to Flage. We know that they have Surgical in their deck, so it's also possible that since they're on 4 cards, haven't done anything threat-wise, that they might be sitting on Surgical. And therefore, again, I might choose to not do anything and just fetch a Surveil Land. I'm going to choose not to move. I want Flage to trade with something. I'm not just going to have it surgically extracted for 3 life. Way is yeah in French for him. We know it. We knew it all to be true. Stock up is hot. Okay. So we can take 4 stress down to stop the surgical. I think that's probably our best thing. Take a land off of a Wasteland. Force also stops a Grist or a Green Sun on this follow-up. I think this is... We're just going to go with this. They know about this Prismatic Ending, so the odds that they do anything other than let us clip this, be nice if they commit something else to the board. Bowmaster's fine. We're going to clean that up. Play this Flage. ForceofPhil. Take down this Bowmaster. When in doubt, Flage is what we've learned, and that's what I'm going to do. I don't have any other insight to provide other than that we learned what we do. We learned what happens if we don't Flage, which is we die. So now we're going to Flage. Now, dog, Flaging. Wasteland. All right, so now we're set back on the Flage. Or they're just going to tap out for a Green Sun Zenith. We're going to fluster it and then Flage. That worked out exceptionally well for us. Exceptionally well. Wow, another Flage. White. Red. Red. White. So many clicks just to put this Flage onto the table. Sweet, interesting gameplay. We made a run of it, fam. We made a good run of it, giving them a chance to come back in that second game so we could get to this third game. I'm not even going to fire off this Wasteland here. Or are they? Did they just wait to the end step? They sure did wait to the end step, and then they hit that Tundra. They really don't like Tundras, this player. Andre Prada doesn't like Tundra. Attack. Should have played a land, but click through the turn, but it's all right. It is all right. Fam, it's going to be okay. Second, the Pete land. We're just going to go hitch in the dome. Flage, hitch in the dome. When in doubt, always be flaging. always be Force of Flagon. No, I clicked the wrong land. Now I gotta fetch. Let's get this plateau. That'll do it. Nice little 3-2 action. So yeah, we've talked about what we think could improve upon this thing. It's really leaning on, it's got a lot of hammers for certain matchups, and those matchups play as such that like we didn't run into really any Urza Saga decks, so the dress downs might not have seemed as hot as they otherwise would have been. So the dress downs, they're swingier because they're going to be a lot better against Urza Saga decks than they're going to be against anything else. We are a 4 dress down deck, and we still got absolutely bodied by Doomsday, and I think that's just because it's just not enough. By the time that they're Doomsdaying, they're going to be able to beat whatever it is that's happening. So dress down is just anemic there. You just can't let the Doomsday resolve. We didn't run into Atraxa, but even still, 2 mana isn't going to do it on the draw. So we would need more ways to deal with that. I mean, Fluster is something that can contend with that, but then you need Fluster plus dress down. But I think all in all, I think what we saw was when in doubt, Flage. So Flage was impressive in the spots where it was. It won games really quickly. Fourth Aerolingos was just another way to go over the top if Flage wasn't enough, but it seemed otherwise anemic. Like I never wanted to draw it outside of the positions where the game was already more or less locked up. There were spots where it's like even against a Corey Steel Cutter, I was like, okay, I guess I can make some tokens. It might be better if it was just an actual wrath effect to clean up in spots where since there were some situations where it was like, well, we don't have a way to like clean up, and so we're going to need to spend a lot of cards, and not having a way to do that in a control shell means that like we really are contingent on never fully falling behind. We can never really get to a behind position against those types of decks, and I think that there's rationale for maybe playing a Supreme Verdict somewhere in here as an option. We certainly have enough weight to support it and all of that. I think the Teferis, as we talked about, is the softest type of thing. I don't know exactly what I would swap out. My reservations with these types of control lists are they really are just trying to go point and click and then hope that going on raw cards is good enough. But then if you ever run into a deck where raw cards is just not what the game is about, a la a combo deck, then you sort of feel pretty anemic. And we're already going to be anemic in those spots because the raw cards aren't where it's going to matter. And because we're so heavy on Prismatic Ending and Swords to Plowshares, like, don't get me wrong, I play a lot of shit pile white decks. But I think that, like, we're just going to run into those types of problems. And I don't think that the sideboard is really condensed hard enough to fight over those types of things. As you saw, we got bodied by a Veil of Summer. We had we struggled with Teferi. And that's just a matter of like, okay, yeah, like we are over indexing in that we have to keep our Prismatic Ending. We put out our Swords to Plowshares, but our Teferis are a lot worse than their Teferis. Our dress downs in those spots are only going to be good against if they're on the Urza Saga plans, but they're not otherwise going to be good against the decks that are too fast for dress down. There's spots where we're soft to Day's Wasteland. So there's like some inherent weaknesses that, like, if you win the matchup lottery, you are going to do really, really well. I think that like there's some rationale maybe that since we're like if we cut the Teferis, maybe we play something like a Wrath of the Skies. That could maybe open up to being able to clean up in a way that like doesn't extend us too hard into other things. We could also like clean up small creatures and keep a Flage on the table. I think that there's interesting space to be had there to lean a little bit harder on control. I think maybe leaning into something that could fight over opposing mana of some kind. I found that like if we were playing against anything that had a permanent that Prismatic Ending couldn't deal with, then it's probably not getting dealt with. Like Teferi is a short-term answer, but we're a deck that's not really converting a short-term answer into a kill. Again, why I think Teferi is just better served as a permanent answer rather than a temporary one. I don't think that the instant speed stuff comes up enough because in the spots that we're playing Teferi, we're likely going to have to use it as a bounce effect. And then if it survives, we're just way ahead in those games anyway. I just don't think that like we need to put the gas pedal down harder on those matchups. I think we're already well served there. I think that we are probably going to be better served if these 4 slots become other tools that are shoring up weaknesses. If you're still considerate about blue count, like, okay, we can be mindful about blue count, but you're also a Flusterstorm deck. I could see that, like, depending on what these flusters are specifically targeting, like we've talked about on the podcast before, where it's like if your counter magic in your deck isn't, for the most part, always going to say like counter target specific card or specific subset of cards that you fear, then having them in the deck as a wash is not necessarily going to be strong because like then you have to open yourself up to your opponent just agreeing to those cards being playable. And I think that means that it's really hard to then go, okay, well, how do I navigate these turns when I'm playing counter magic that costs mana, because if it's not looking to counter something specific in your head, then you're just going to end up porting mana, and this deck really wants to be able to go and tap out between Teferis and stock up, so there's some tension there. And I think we would be better served getting rid of these Teferis and putting in other things. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, man, 3 Flusters is a lot, and we can maybe diversify, and you want to go back and keep the blue count, I could see a world where we're on Snapcaster Mages or something of that ilk. I mean, I hate me Tameo in a control list because I don't like turning on their counter magic, but it's being able to play at instant speed with this kind of counter magic and then post board between the Consigns, the Surgicals, and the Power Blast. It's also really hot for a spell snap Snapcaster Mage type effect. So maybe there's something there, like the Snapcaster with Flusterstorm also levels the Flusterstorm in a way that makes them better in the late game. I think that like if we wanted to just move into a space where like even something like the random one-ofs, like one-of Stifle or something, keep your opponent guessing. I think that that's also somewhat interesting. I think that it's possible that if we play any other type of permanent removal, we may be able to get away with not playing the Underground Sea, so this Prismatic Ending doesn't have to go up to 4, depending on what that is. I could see, even if we're in the realm of something like, we move into the Wizards type shell and play Flame of Anur and that sort of thing. I think there's a lot of space that this deck could go. I think there's so many options for it because I don't know what the target is beyond going rock hard and then like rock harding and up on stock up and then hoping that rock cards is what the games are about. And then we're going to be really, really good against the decks where rock cards are what matter. And then we're going to be really, really bad against the ones that where rock harding is not what matters. So I think if we can shore up the rock cards not mattering matchups, I think we would be better served overall. But I think that like the logic of where this deck is at with the Flusterstorms in the main, given that we're on the composition of dress downs and otherwise being able to protect our stuff to make sure that it all goes through, I think is a cool innovation. Now I think you'd want to lean harder into it, and I just don't think that the Teferi is part of any part of this game plan of going card for card, like raw cards, and then going up on stock up. And I think that like having a way to go raw cards, and then if you ever fall behind, just like having some sort of catch up mechanic, like a Wrath of the Skies or something like that, because stock up is going to see a lot of cards, and I think that that's just going to be more fruitful overall, given a more broad matchup spread, rather than assuming that we would run into Dimir Tempo and the ilk every single round, which is hopeful and possible. And if you run into those matchups, this is the kind of deck that you definitely want. But I think if we want a broader spread, I think we can take Teferi, put in another 7 or 8 level card, and then call it a day from there. So that's what I got. Havoc, thank you very, very much for your donation deck. If anybody else would like to submit a donation deck to have played on the Eternal Durdles channel, just head over to patreon.com/Eternal Durdles. That's patreon.com/Eternal Durdles. You'll see the donation deck list tier available there, and you can send your deck list there, and you can make your choice of if you want Zach or I to play it on the channel. We will abide by whatever you decide, and then you can share with us anything about your deck list, matchups or notes that you're looking to learn about the deck list. You can tell us nothing, and then just learn from there. You can just do something for fun if you want us to play something fun. But if you also are like, if you want to give us notes to see how we would pilot it along with what you're thinking, maybe we can help you with deck doctoring or something like that. We can talk about theory on a deck if you're interested in that. Really, whatever it is that you would like to learn about, any deck list that you would like to submit for a donation deck list, we're open to it. So that's it for now. Havoc, again, thank you again for your donation deck list. And until the next one, we will catch you on the flip.
If you made it this far, you probably like Legacy, Pre-Modern, or our sultry voices. So do us a favor.
Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and help keep the Eternal Durdles engine running.
Check out our new donation deck tier on Patreon. You pick the deck, we play it on the channel.
It supports the show, so sleeve up something spicy, completely unplayable, or punish me with a deck that doesn't have Brainstorm in it.
Links are in the description. You can go to patreon.com/Eternal Durdles. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll check you in the next one.